Shanann Watts,
Hey guys, we're here from the boat today.
a social media maven and master of the digital stage.
I am so excited. I'm thriving with you. I am confident. I am determined and I'm successful.
She was fun, full of life. She did so many things. She had her hand in everything. She was amazing.
Love you guys. Have a great day.
Just about every waking moment of Shanann's life streams live over Facebook.
Now we get to enjoy your life and live again and have a blast.
Shannann's views on life,
I am grateful. Can you see it?
beauty,
Isn't it so fun to watch someone take off their makeup?
parenting.
Careful.
Shannann's parents, Sandra and Frank Rusek.
She was very open on Facebook, and if you were from the outside looking in, she seemed to have the perfect life.
She did.
Did you believe that she was happy?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Chris and I are sitting here
Going out?
waiting to board our flight to Miami. We're going to Toronto in June. You guys have an amazing day. Bye. See my hat? I loved it.
Next to Shanann, that's her husband Chris, a field coordinator at a local oil company.
I love the hat.
Shanann loves sharing their love story, which started, not surprisingly, on Facebook.
I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook. Well, one thing led to another, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And because of my health challenges, because I got so sick, I let him in.
Shanann suffers from the debilitating disease lupus.
You just don't sleep very good with lupus. And she had her head on his lap and they were watching TV and he didn't move. He let her sleep for 4 hours. And I told her God must have sent him to you.
What did you all think of him?
Loved him.
Hello everyone and welcome to another video on the Watts family murders. I'm Michelle and I do hope you're well. The aim of this video is twofold, but we'll get into that in just a few moments. But just look at these videos that Shanann Watts posted on Facebook. Indeed, as her mother said, she seemed so happy. She seemed to have everything in life. She was ambitious, beautiful, a real go-getter. Despite her health problems, she rallied, she challenged the world. Yeah, she was bossy, but that was just in her nature. And we see here Chris, her husband, her killer. In these videos, seems like a lovable sidekick, very much on the sidelines, but seemingly that's what he was comfortable being. But looks can be deceiving, can't they? Now, I have heard some YouTubers saying that Chris Watts was a battered husband, and personally, in my opinion, I don't believe that. Yes, I think Shanann was bossy, but I don't think we can label Chris a battered husband. There are two beautiful children here, Bella and Cece, on the plane to their final vacation to visit grandparents in North Carolina. Only a few short weeks after these enchanting photos and videos were taken, and greeting their father at the airport and being with Pops, Frank Rusek and Chris on Myrtle Beach, playing in the waves. Bella a little bit nervous, Cece the rambunctious, rampaging little girl, beautiful children with their lives ahead of them. We fast forward to the early morning of the 13th of August 2018, when Shanann was dropped off by friend Nicole Atkinson, who became so important to this investigation, at 1:48 a.m. In those few hours between 1:48 a.m. and 5:17, when we see on neighbour Nate's footage Chris backing in his work truck into his driveway, and we see possibly him carrying something out, a dead body, it has been speculated, and possibly a shadow of another person there. This is all disputed. Personally, I see the shadow, but other people don't. Once Shanann and the girls were reported missing, reported missing by that friend, that beautiful friend, Nicole Atkinson. We all need a Nicole in our lives. Chris was caught on body cam lying again and again and again. And after a very, very quick investigation, 2 days later, on the 15th of August, he was arrested after a partial confession. He admitted to killing Shanann, but only because she killed the girls. On the 19th of November 2018, the quickest summary of an entire investigation that I've ever heard of, Chris was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. This brings me to the twofold aim of this video. While I, and probably just about everybody else who's ever heard of the Watts case, believes that Chris was the killer of Shanann, her unborn baby Nico, Bella and Cece, there is a small but vocal number of people on YouTube and probably other social media as well who don't believe that. Most of these people believe that Chris had an accomplice or accomplices. So even though, yes, he had his part in the murders and he is where he should be, in prison for the rest of his life, there are accomplices out there who also should be, need to be brought to justice. And that because the investigation was wrapped up so quickly, for whatever reason, whether it's a cover-up or some other reason, laziness or to save money, there are people walking free who deserve to be punished for their role in the Watts murders. And to be honest, I've explored these possibilities. At this moment in time, I can't find concrete evidence for it, but it could be argued that you can't find the evidence because it was never collected. And I understand that. And we are going to come on to that. We are going to touch on that. There's another group of people, a smaller group of people, who believe Chris's first confession, because he did have, well, he's had 3 confessions now. The first confession that he killed Shanann, but only because she killed Bella and Cece. They believe that Chris's sentence should be, diminished. It could be self-defense. He's got battered husband syndrome or some such. Therefore, his whole role in this horrible tragedy should be reviewed. And there are other people still who believe that Chris had absolutely no part in the murders whatsoever. And he's, for some reason, whatever reason, he's taken the rap for other people. Now, in part 1 of this video, I'm going to lump all of these people into one. Not that I believe that their claims have equal merit. I've got more sympathy with the people who believe that Chris is a murderer but he didn't act alone than I certainly have of the people who say that Chris didn't do any of the murders. I don't believe that at all, personally, in my humble opinion. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the thought processes I go through when I'm investigating evidence. In doing that, I'm going to show that this so-called evidence collection of the people who are drawing conclusions as to Chris didn't act alone or Chris didn't do the murders at all, I'm going to show you the flaws in their thinking. When I'm investigating any topic, not just the Watts murders, but any topic at all that requires some investigation, I use the basics of scientific inquiry to help me. So bear with me for the next couple of minutes because I'm going to explain the science bit to you. And in doing so, hopefully this becomes clear why I'm lumping everybody, whether it's the Chris didn't act alone group or the Chris didn't do the murders at all group or the Shanann killed the kids group, why I'm lumping everybody into the same boat, so to speak. Because I'm lumping myself into that boat as well. I've drawn the conclusion that Chris did the murders and most probably did the murders himself, but I've reached that conclusion after much investigation using the basics of scientific inquiry. In my mind, the process of investigating a case is very, very similar to the way that we conduct scientific experiments. You know, you have an observation about something in the world and you ask a question about it. And from that questioning of the preliminary evidence that you've got around you, then you form a hypothesis. The idea then is to test that hypothesis. Then you're able to draw conclusions and ultimately disseminate your findings. So that's exactly the same as what we do when we look at the discovery or we go through the body cams. We're asking questions of that data and we're forming hypotheses in our mind, or using the evidence provided, we're testing that hypothesis and then we're letting people know about it. So exactly the same as what we do in science. However, it is a little bit more complicated than that. When you've kind of collected that existing knowledge and you've formulated potential hypotheses, the most important thing about hypothesis formulation is that that hypothesis is both testable but also falsifiable. So what do I mean by that? It means that you should be able to disprove as well as prove your findings. You've got to think about all the possible reasons why your findings may not be initially as you thought. They've got to be falsifiable. By testing your hypothesis and formulating those new insights with that in mind, that you've looked at all the reasons why, then you can say your hypothesis is falsifiable. If not, then you have to essentially say no and go back to the beginning and reformulate your hypothesis. And again, any revised hypothesis has to be equally falsifiable as the first. I'm going to give you a concrete example now to show you exactly what I mean in relation to what people have been talking about in the Watts case. Now, I'm using the Red X crime files as my example. I'm not singling out this channel. Actually, the reason why I'm using this channel as the example is because the creator, sorry, I don't know her name, I've only watched a handful of her videos. The creator puts together logical presentations, so it's easy for me to kind of go through step by step, rather than trying to use a video from a creator who does, you know, long live streams and the information's kind of dispersed over maybe several hours and different conversations, you know, saying hello to the chat and super chats and things like that get in the way. I've nothing against this channel, let me just state that. And in fact, it's kind of a cack-handed compliment, as we say in the north of England, in choosing this example. Like I said, because it is logical. And as a sign of respect to this channel creator, I'll leave a link to her channel in the description box. But I don't agree with her opinions, at least on the videos that I've seen. And in this example, what Red X Crime Files did was put together a set of findings and formed a conclusion. What she's using is the essence of scientific inquiry, that she's asking questions of data, she's formulating hypotheses, and she's testing those hypotheses. What she thought she was doing in this video was formulating a conclusion based on all of that evidence collection and analysis to prove that Chris Watts did not act alone. I'm going to show you just step by step, based on, this is just a screenshot taken from one of her videos, that the way that she's laid out this so-called proof can be so easily falsifiable. She's gone down a route of collecting evidence but not thinking about all of the other reasons why that evidence might be as it seems. For example, there might be other explanations for the findings that she thinks she can pull together to draw a conclusion that Chris Watts didn't act alone. So let's go through these step by step. It's her opinion only, and I do respect that. But what I don't think she's done is she's proven that Chris Watts didn't act alone based on this evidence. Now, because my opinion is most likely Chris Watts did act alone and he is a murderer and a family annihilator, doesn't mean to say my opinion is 100% correct, because I can happily say to you, well, maybe my opinion has been formulated because the data just isn't there to falsify the fact that I believe Chris Watts acted alone. So I can criticise myself just as I can criticise other creators for having opinions different to mine. But in this particular example, I don't think she's gone through the process of attempting to falsify this so-called proof. So let's go through these 7 points step by step. So first of all, she said, Chris Watts did not climb any flights of stairs at the oil field. Based on his phone data, the health tracking. He has an iPhone, and on iPhones, the flights climbed is recorded in your health data. I've got an iPhone, I can show you flights climbed in my health data. If I take my phone downstairs and then take my phone upstairs, it will record one flight. And indeed, my health tracking has recorded one flight climbed for today so far. It's 11:30 a.m. on this screenshot. Now, it will have recorded any other flights climbed since midnight. So have I really only climbed one flight? No. I've been up and downstairs, I don't know, 5-6 times today so far. But I've only taken my phone down and up once. So it's not an accurate representation of the exercise I've had or the flights I've climbed, because I've not had my phone on me. Neither have I had my Apple Watch on, which also records flights climbed. So she says Chris Watts did not climb any flights of stairs at the oil field. Now, how can we falsify that? Because she's saying this proves that Chris Watts didn't put the girls in the tanks, because he didn't climb any stairs at the oil field during the time that he was at Survey 319. Well, maybe he just left his phones in the truck. I mean, I would imagine that you probably would leave your phones in the truck if you're opening those thief hatches at the top of the tanks. You don't want your phone to fall in by accident or fall out of your pocket and get damaged. So he left his phones in the truck. He's got a work phone and a personal phone. Isn't that a more likely explanation? In my mind, it is. Now she says Shanann Watts climbed at least 3 flights of stairs in a matter of 3 minutes. So this was in the time that Shanann opened the door and walked into her house for that very final time at 1:48 a.m. on the 13th of August 2018. Shanann's health data on her iPhone recorded flights climbed. And in 3 minutes between 1:48 and 1:51 a.m., she climbed 3 flights. So the argument here might be that, she's in some kind of altercation, that there's people in the house she didn't expect and she's panicking. Actually, no. It's just as likely that she climbed 3 flights because she could have gone upstairs and then she'd left her suitcase in the downstairs area. We see that on the body cam the day after. Her suitcase is still at the bottom of the stairs, and we know she changed her top, her t-shirt. So maybe she went upstairs, thought, I want one of the t-shirts, one of the comfy t-shirts that I've taken to Arizona. So she's gone downstairs, got a t-shirt out of her suitcase, and then she thought, I need something from the basement. We've now got 3 flights because she's gone upstairs, realised she wants something out of her suitcase, gone back down, and then she thought, they kept all sorts of things in that basement. I mean, that basement was packed with things, so she might have gone down in the basement to get some medication or to, whatever, for whatever reason. So she went down the basement stairs and then went back up, so that's recorded 2 flights, and then she's gone back upstairs to bed, 3 flights. Why wouldn't you do that in 3 minutes? She just wants to go to bed. Again, point 2 can be falsifiable very easily. And then she says, Shanann's phone ceased all activity at 1:51 a.m. So what? She went to bed. She was tired. She'd had a long weekend. Her flight was delayed. She just wanted to go to bed. And she went to sleep, and she didn't look at her phone. But it doesn't mean to say something nefarious happened straight away as she got in the door. And then we dial back a few hours, and Chris Watts went outside during the 111-minute phone call with Nicole Kessinger. So what? Well, he's talking, he's gone out taking Dieter outside. He's gone out putting trash out while he's on the phone. He's walking about outside. It was summer. And just because his phone disconnected from the router and then reconnected, so what? My phone does that, right? My Wi-Fi signal is sometimes very patchy. It doesn't mean anything necessarily nefarious. Now, it could be that he went out to meet someone. It could easily be that, but we don't know. So again, I've got to just say, so what? And then the last 3, I'm going to lump them into one. She says, based on the footage of Nate's security camera, she's seen what she believes to be cars pulling up on Chris Watts' driveway during the evening of August the 12th, Sunday, August the 12th, just after he left the phone call with his mistress. It targeted the direction of Chris's driveway just as it did in those early morning hours when he was loading his truck, because it rotates to detect movement. So what? If the camera rotates to detect movement, we know that movement was detected by that camera when there was nothing apparently there. It was windy, right? That camera was moving around. I mean, somebody could have walked by. We just don't know. So again, we can't say that this is proving anything because we can't disprove the alternatives. Let's look at the footage on Nate's camera from August the 12th. Let's do that now. To find the footage that Red X Crime Files used, you've got to really zoom in on the TV. You know, as Chris was like nervous with Officer Coonrod there, there's a few minutes where Nate is flicking through and he goes down like Sunday, Saturday. You do see on the Sunday footage kind of highlight there Sunday evening at 11:25. Some movement was detected, but he doesn't click on it. So you don't actually see anything. You don't see anything. We can neither prove nor disprove the point that Red X Crime Files is claiming to make. Before we leave this topic of Chris didn't act alone because of the evidence in the discovery, I'll mention one more thing that I've heard both Red X Crime Files make, but also I've seen Lana make this point as well. And this was a suspicious white truck that was called in, like a passerby called it into the tip line. It was 1:30 a.m, only a few minutes away from 2825 Saratoga Trail, near Highway 52. The person who called this in thought it was suspicious, and I think people have latched onto it because Nicole Kessinger had a white truck, but there's many white trucks. We don't know the registration plate. We don't even know the make and the model of this. We just don't know. And it's cherry picking one tip that came in amongst many others which were clearly nothing to do with the case. There's many of these tips that have been recorded and have found their way into the discovery. So again, it proves nothing. It doesn't disprove, but it doesn't prove anything. So let's now move on to part 2 of this video.
Good morning. Certainly a somber morning here in Frederick. Investigators have confirmed that they've arrested Chris Watts for allegedly killing his wife and 2 young girls. Out in front of the home here, neighbors just completely shocked this morning, setting up a memorial in the middle of the night for the mother and 2 young daughters. Chris Watts faces 3 charges of first-degree murder and 3 charges of tampering with physical evidence. Now, new video from about 10 o'clock last night shows police executing a search warrant at the house where the family lives here. Investigators were seen taking bags of evidence out of the house and towed what we were told is the work truck of Chris Watts that was parked just down the road from the home. Investigators say Shanann and 2 daughters were last seen about 2 a.m. Monday morning, were reported missing about 12 hours later. Now, we spoke with Chris Watts on Tuesday, who said he didn't know where his wife and daughters were.
In my heart, I believe that she is somewhere, and I hope that she is safe.
The victim's brother posted on social media that Chris Watts confessed to the killing to investigators and that Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant, expecting a baby boy. Now, investigators have not said what led up to the killing. We are expecting to hear from the investigators in a news conference later on this morning. That's scheduled for about 10:30, so we're hoping to learn more then. Chris Watts is expected to make his first appearance in court later this afternoon here in Frederick.
In this part of the video, I want to show on what shaky ground the prosecution put themselves in. On the evening of the 15th of August, Chris Watts confessed, but only to killing Shanann. The next day, on the 16th, Chris Watts appeared in court for the first time, and there was some discussion about evidence. Let's listen in.
Mr. Rain.
So with respect to paragraph number 3, Judge, our concerns relate to the way this is worded. As the court knows, the pathologist goes through a very extensive process when conducting an autopsy, much of which is governed by statute. I think most of what he's asking for is standard procedure for an autopsy conducted in this jurisdiction and would be done. However, I have concerns about the way this is phrased in that it orders collection of trace DNA and touch DNA from certain areas of bodies that at this point we don't even have, frankly. Second, we don't know if that trace DNA is going to even exist if we have the bodies. So there's no way to order us to find something that may or may not exist.
I think when I read the motion, it essentially is putting the prosecution on notice that at some point they may be in possession of exculpatory evidence, and it's their duty to make reasonable efforts to preserve that and ultimately provide that to the defense. And so I think they're on notice by the mere fact that we're talking about this, that Mr. Wren got a copy of the motion, and if this becomes an issue later on, we can litigate this, and there's some pretty significant sanctions for the destruction of exculpatory evidence. Okay, so that will be the ruling of the court.
Your Honor, may I ask one clarifying question? Because the way that the motion is titled talks about the collection of touch or trace DNA at 2825 Saratoga Trail as well as during the autopsy, but the body of the motion does not. I want to make sure that Mr. Merson is aware that the home where the homicides were alleged to have occurred has been released by law enforcement, was released as of about midnight last night. So even as we stand today, we are not in a position to be able to go back in and collect trace DNA from that home. So I just want to make clear that the ruling of the court does not require us to do anything affirmative with respect to the home.
And Mr. Wren advised me that the government is no longer in control of the home, so I'm aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So 2 important points there. One about the autopsy, that they didn't know when they were going to take place, and the release of the house 2825 Saratoga Trail where the murders were alleged to have taken place, according to DA Rourke. The house was released at midnight by law enforcement. So those are the 2 points. Let's take autopsies first, and then we'll go on to the second point. You can see here from the date on Shanann's autopsy report that the autopsies took place on the very next day, on the 17th of August, even though they discussed in court that the defence should be given 48 hours notice. So you might say, well, maybe the prosecution had no hand in this. Well, who was present at the autopsies? Oh, look, Steve Wren and Patrick Roach. One might think there's something quite underhand there, that the prosecution wanted the autopsies to take place without the defence even being aware that they'd taken place. What does that mean for evidence collection and the possibility of a fair trial? And you might say, well, Chris confessed, but until you've actually made a formal plea of guilty, you can renege on that confession. And this has been done. It's been done recently in the Anthony Todd case. A similar case in that Anthony Todd is alleged to have killed his entire family, and he made some sort of confession initially, and then he reneged on it, and he's now pleading not guilty. Chris Watts could have easily done that, and this is compounded by the house being released. So let's look at the footage taken by the lovely Officer Lines during the security on the evening of the 15th.
Dog's taken care of.
At least I can tell them.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I've included this little bit because this was part of the security footage, because a lot of people ask about Dieter, and you see here Dieter getting picked up, and it's really sad.
I'm just advising that medical head is 204 Xanthi Street, 204 Xanthi Street for a 34-year-old.
Stop right there. Do not pull into the driveway. Okay, I need you to park over there. We will have the dog brought out to you. Verdict 975-989. Folks are here to pick up the dog.
Okay. I'm gonna try to catch her first. Just keep her outside.
Copy. So it's going to be a few minutes. They're trying to catch that dog. So.
What about, like, I mean, is it possible to get, like, food and all that good stuff? I know.
Probably not. I mean, no, it's not going to happen. I can't.
If possible, he has a black blanket that's usually on the couch.
He's being really uncooperative. So we're going to be
shocked.
lucky to get him in the kennel and out the door at this point. So I know that's not the best news, but for right now, we can at least get him out. Meanwhile, just stay here. Like I stopped you guys. Can't have anybody going past the property line, so just hang. We'll get him to you, okay? She's right there. This vehicle right here. They were asking about food. I told them I didn't know if that was a possibility or not. Back up for me. Yep.
I got food. I got dog food.
I don't know if it was accessible in there or not.
Let me go look. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll get free dog food at my house on the way out.
What's that?
You don't have to.
They were asking.
From inside, I'll give them the rest of my bag.
He's gonna go look. It's fine.
I got blue. I got the rest of the dog bag. I got 2 bags.
They don't have it. I got some.
As long as you stay on this side of the line.
That's fine. Guys in this circumstance.
I included that just to answer questions that I get in the comments about what happened to Dieter. He was picked up by Nick Thayer and he stayed with them for a short time, and he now lives with Sandy, Frank and Frankie Rusick. So everybody rallied round to help Dieter on the evening, which I thought was really nice. But what I really want to show you is a few minutes later. Officer Lines had a couple of visitors. Let's listen in.
Hi. DA's office. I get. What's your last name?
Need to see IDs? Probably can't hurt,
You
huh?
definitely don't look like media. What's your last name?
Ren, W-R-E-N-N.
What's your first name?
Steve. Roach, R-O-C-H-E. Patrick.
Right, I will let them know that you're on your way up because I believe they have the door locked at the moment. Frederick 975-989.
That's up what?
I'm sending DAs up to the front door.
Copy, copy.
These are good to go.
Thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Let me know what you make of this in the comments, because on the 16th, a few hours after this, the DA, Michael Rourke, said the house had been released by law enforcement. But lo and behold, who was at the scene? Assistant DA Steve Wren and Patrick Roach. The same two people who were at the autopsies, which weren't meant to occur without giving the defence 48 hours notice. But they're here. Now, if you look at the time on Officer Line's body cam, it says 5:11 a.m. on the 16th, but this is GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, and Colorado, I think, is 7 hours behind. So this would have been shortly after 10 p.m. on the 15th. So even before Chris was in handcuffs, he was actually cuffed and, formally arrested just before 11 p.m. Even before he was in cuffs, the assistant DA was at the house. There's something else. The body cam that was taken inside the house is really interesting, because I can't find any body cam from the officers in the house after 5:08. So it was like when the assistant DA turned up, the body cams were turned off. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't that feed into the conspiracies? But it's there, right in front of your face. Make of that what you will. Let me know in the comments. So how can I summarise all of the information that I've included in this video? What does it really mean? Well, first of all, the prosecution took a huge gamble. I can understand why there are so many conspiracies that focus around the possibility that there was a cover-up or some underhand tactics going on in the DA's office. That Nicole Kessinger's father was a Freemason and all of the other things that come out and are interesting, but we can't prove or disprove them. Conspiracies are born where you've got this strange set of circumstances, because this was a highly unusual case. Even though Chris made a partial confession on the 15th of August, he did not plead guilty until the 6th of November and sentenced on the 19th of November. That was in record quick time. Now, in February 2019, when agents Tammy Lee, Graham Coder and Detective Baumhofer went to visit Chris in Dodge Correctional in Wisconsin, where he's now serving his sentence and he's going to spend the rest of his life there, and he deserves to spend the rest of his life there. When they went to visit him, he said he wanted to plead guilty, and although his defence would have fought for him, he wanted to plead guilty. Well, that's all well and good, but the DA's office didn't know that. on the 16th of August when they released the house? Did they not expect to have a trial at all? Did they expect that they could get away with just putting together a discovery that has got so many holes in it? And because it's got a lot of holes, this is another thing that plays into the conspiracies, and it leads people down rabbit holes. I understand that. I've been down all of those rabbit holes myself. I'm sure I've been down them all. But applying the basics of scientific inquiry, that you formulate a question, you develop a hypothesis and you test it, but it's got to be a falsifiable hypothesis that you're able to kind of put together information that can disprove as well as prove. I have sympathy with people who think there's a conspiracy that's gone on here. I have sympathy with the idea. And I certainly have sympathy with people who believe that Chris didn't act alone, because there's no evidence to disprove it. Certainly not in the discovery that's been released to the public. A lot of people come along to me, and presumably to a lot of other creators, and say, this case is closed. And yeah, this case is closed, despite the small band of people who are trying to get Chris a new trial. Whether he wants that or not is somewhat of a moot point to those people, because they want him to have a trial anyway. They apply for post-conviction relief, and it all works out and whatever. But let me know what you think in the comments. And that's all for now. Thank you for listening. I hope you're well. I've been Michelle, and I'll see you in the next video.